long before the nation we know today, before conquistadors, before great cathedrals, before independence. The lands of Mexico were home to extraordinary civilizations whose achievements still amaze the world. People have lived in what is now Mexico for thousands of years. Over time, they adapted to mountains, deserts, forests, and coastlines, developing agriculture, villages, and rich traditions that laid the foundation for future civilizations. Around 1500 BC, one of Mesoamerica's earliest great civilizations emerged, the Olmecs. They built ceremonial centers, created remarkable monumental sculptures, and influenced many cultures that followed. Because of their lasting influence, historians often describe them as one of the foundational civilizations of ancient Mesoamerica. Across Mesoamerica, remarkable cities flourished. Engineers built monumental pyramids. Astronomers carefully observed the stars. Mathematicians developed sophisticated numerical systems, including the concept of zero. Skilled architects and artists created some of the greatest achievements of the ancient Americas. For centuries, Maya civilization became one of the world's great centers of science, architecture, mathematics, astronomy, and writing. Although many southern lowland cities declined during the 9th century, Maya communities continued to thrive in different regions, and millions of Maya descendants continue to preserve their languages and traditions today. By the 15th century, the Mexica, commonly known as the Aztecs, built the extraordinary city of Tenochtitlan. Constructed on islands within Lake Texcoco, it became one of the largest and most impressive cities in the world. In 1519, Spanish ships under Hernán Cortés reached the Mexican coast. They brought steel weapons, horses, translators, supplies, and ambition. But they were far too few to conquer a vast empire alone. Cortés entered a divided political world where many indigenous states opposed Mexica power and the tribute demanded by Tenochtitlan. Through negotiation, warfare, and the vital translation of Melanesians, the Spaniards formed alliances with powerful indigenous rivals of the Mexica, especially Tlaxcala. When Cortés entered Tenochtitlan, he found an astonishing city of scale, wealth, canals, temples, and advanced engineering. Emperor Moctezuma received the expedition with ceremony, but suspicion soon overwhelmed diplomacy. The Spaniards took Moctezuma captive, but local resistance forced them into a disastrous retreat. They returned with a much larger indigenous coalition. At the same time, smallpox, introduced from the Old World, spread through communities without immunity, causing catastrophic loss of life. After months of siege, hunger, and fierce resistance, Tenochtitlan fell in August 1521. The victory did not belong to a handful of Spaniards alone. Indigenous warriors formed the overwhelming majority of the attacking coalition. Even so, Spanish leaders claimed authority over the defeated capital and began building a colonial order. The fall of Tenochtitlan ended the Mexica Empire, but did not erase indigenous Mexico. For 3 centuries, present-day Mexico was the heart of New Spain. Spanish rule brought Catholic institutions, European crops, livestock, and new systems of government. But indigenous communities preserved their languages, traditions, and foods by adapting to changing conditions. Europeans, indigenous peoples, Africans, and Asians created a complex colonial society connected by trade, faith, and family, though power remained deeply unequal. Silver transformed New Spain into one of the most valuable territories in the Spanish Empire, enriching the crown and linking Mexico to global trade from Europe to Asia. But this wealth depended on demanding labor and was distributed unevenly. Colonial Mexico became a global crossroads, where Asian goods arrived via Manila galleons, while Mexican silver circulated through international markets. In 1810, a political crisis in Spain opened the way for rebellion. The priest Miguel Hidalgo issued the Grito de Dolores, drawing enormous support. But his movement was defeated, and he was executed. José María Morelos continued the struggle for independence and equality until he too was captured and killed. Resistance survived through regional fighters like Vicente Guerrero, who in 1821 allied with former royalist commander Agustín de Iturbide. After 11 years of conflict, Mexico achieved independence. Independence brought sovereignty, but not immediate stability. The country briefly became an empire before establishing a republic plagued by debt, regional divisions, weak institutions, and repeated struggles for power. In the 1830s, Texas rebelled, and its subsequent annexation by the United States led to war in 1846. Defeated, Mexico signed the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, ceding a vast northern territory. This loss deepened a national crisis over unity and survival. A generation of liberals tried to rebuild Mexico through reform. Benito Juárez rose from a Zapotec community to become president. His government sought to reduce institutional privileges, establish equality before the law, and create a secular republic. These reforms provoked a civil war, prompting France to invade and install Maximilian of Habsburg as emperor. Juárez and the Republican resistance refused to surrender. French forces eventually withdrew. Maximilian's empire collapsed, and the Republic was restored in 1867. Beginning in 1876, Porfirio Díaz dominated Mexican politics for more than 3 decades. His era brought railways, foreign investment, and industrial growth, making Mexico appear increasingly modern. But progress came at a high human cost. Political opposition was suppressed, rural communities lost land, and many workers and peasants remained poor. By 1910, the promise of order could no longer conceal demands for justice and democracy. The Mexican Revolution began in 1910 as a challenge to Díaz. Francisco Madero demanded political democracy. Emiliano Zapata fought for land reform under the cry of land and liberty. And Pancho Villa became a powerful leader in the north. As factions clashed, communities endured years of warfare and hunger. From this upheaval emerged the Constitution of 1917, promising land reform, labor protections, and national authority over natural resources. Post-revolution reconstruction expanded public education, redistributed land, and promoted a shared identity. That identity celebrated indigenous heritage, while often overlooking the continuing diversity of these communities. Artists transformed public walls into vast visual histories, and oil was nationalized in 1938 as a symbol of economic sovereignty. Later, a single political system dominated national life for decades, bringing stability but restricting competition and dissent. Modernization did not end conflict. The violent suppression of the 1968 student movement revealed the limits of political openness, while the devastating 1985 Mexico City earthquake exposed institutional failures alongside extraordinary civic courage. Economic crises, activism, and electoral reforms gradually transformed the country. In 2000, an opposition candidate won the presidency, ending more than 7 decades of uninterrupted rule by one party. Today, Mexico is a major industrial, cultural, and economic power. Its factories produce vehicles, electronics, aerospace components, and medical technologies, while its artists, filmmakers, writers, and chefs influence global culture. Indigenous peoples, continue preserving dozens of living languages and traditions descended from ancient civilizations. Mexico also faces serious challenges, including inequality, corruption, and organized violence. Yet its society remains defined by creativity, family, and a deep connection to history. Mexico's history cannot be reduced to a single conquest or revolution. It is the story of ancient civilizations, resistance, independence, and renewal. Across thousands of years, the people of Mexico shaped a nation whose influence reaches far beyond its borders. History lives in language, food, music, faith, family, and the choices of every new generation. It is the story of how we got here. Follow History Tune as we uncover the next extraordinary journey.